All right, a couple weeks ago, Dustin Rhodes posted this to his social media pages that he's going to have both of his knees surgically replaced. And as soon as I saw this news, I thought I would have to make a video about this. And it just took me a little while to figure out what kind of video I wanted to make. And because it was really hard, I went into a Dustin Rhodes deep dive. And I'm going to share with you three Dustin Rhodes eras from the times that I saw him live and in person as Goldust, as Dustin Rhodes in AEW, in WCW, and in WWE. Also going to show you a few of the magazines, a few eras of Dustin Rhodes magazines appearances from my collection, of course. And I'm going to close out by reviewing a playlist that I made. It's over 60 videos of Dustin Rhodes era footage from his debut era in 1988 all the way up to his match with Kyle Fletcher as a 56-year-old veteran of the business. Hey, my name's Adam. This is my YouTube channel. I'm a ring announcer, a wrestling fan, and a collector here in the Mountain State of West Virginia. And one of the most underrated, underappreciated, the least talked about performers in my mind, one of the greatest is Dustin Rhodes. I mean, who else started in the NWA territory, ushered in the Attitude Era, which doesn't get talked about enough. He adapted and evolved that character throughout the Ruthless Aggression era, was there from day one, basically, on AEW, had an insane match with his brother at the first Double or Nothing, won his first single title 5 years after AEW started at the age of 56. And as of right now, he has 2,860 matches on the wrestling database. And that is just insane to me. 37 years, multiple reinventions, priceless moments, an amazing competitor, Dustin Rhodes. Thankfully, it looks like the surgery went well. He's already posted some of his recovery photos. He's in a lot of pain, I know. And I also took the chance to revisit his book, Crossroads. And it's not an easy read because there's a lot about his addiction in here. The word vodka and bottle of pills is throughout. And his addictions really started in 96 and he battled them all the way up until 2010. And that's when this book came out. Like, this book is already 15 years old, and he'd had quite a career up to this point, and he continued to evolve and add to that amazing career. The first time I saw Dustin Rhodes wrestle is at an event that I talk about all the time because it was the first live event I went to, the first live professional wrestling event I went to at the Charleston Coliseum. It was a WCW house show. It was February 14th in 1992, and it was all in the build-up to Super Brawl 2, but working on top in a six-man tag team match was the natural Dustin Rhodes. Incredible. He had debuted in 1988, and on my playlist you can see some of his early matches in 1988, teaming with Kendall Windham, another son of a legend, of course, the son of Blackjack Mulligan and Barry Windham's brother. And it was there in February of 92 where I saw wrestling for the first time. And Dustin Rhodes was working on top. In the main event, man, this is such a great event. I'm so glad this was my first experience of pro wrestling. And I've gotten to work with a ton of these people. Even last year, I even got to meet Dustin Rhodes. But the main event of the first show I ever went to was between Ron Simmons, Ricky Steamboat, and Dustin Rhodes against the U.S. champ Rick Rude and the WCW tag champs Arn and Bobby in a steel cage match. That's incredible. And I got to admit, I don't have a ton of memories of that match. I definitely remember we saw the Dangerous Alliance, which would have been Arn and Bobby and Rude, and they were the hottest faction at that time. I mean, that was when I first started watching wrestling. This is how I learned about heel tag wrestling, is like from Bobby and Arn, and from Arn and Larry Zbyszko and that Dangerous Alliance era. And that's such a beloved era for me. I mean, it's just the stuff I love the most. That's my comfort wrestling, is 92 wrestling. And I did add to that playlist some of the matches that would have been happening on Worldwide and on the Power Hour around this time and around this feuds. And man, they had these six amazing wrestlers that they were just working in and out. It was like Ron Simmons and Ricky Steamboat, and they eventually would add Sting, and that feud would go all the way to Wrestle War when Dustin Rhodes would appear in his first War Games match as part of Sting's squadron, which is incredible to think about. He was in multiple War Games matches, but in Charleston, West Virginia, he was in a cage match, and that was just a few days before Super Brawl 2, which has just gone up over on the WWE's YouTube Vault channel one of the most memorable matches. I couldn't find it on YouTube. It is out there on Daily Motion, but there was a match at Clash of Champions 17 when it was supposed to be Dustin Rhodes and Barry Windham teaming against Arn and Zbyszko for the WCW tag titles, but they had injured Barry Windham's hand. He couldn't compete. And I'll never forget the reaction when they revealed that it was Ricky Steamboat. You got to go watch that match. It's Clash of Champions 17, and Arn Anderson is just so perfect. As a matter of fact, watching some of this early stuff, one of the things I walked away with is just how incredible Arn Anderson is as a perfect professional wrestler. His facial reactions, he always knows where the camera is. If you want to watch great professional wrestling, find an Arn Anderson match. There aren't any bad ones. He's always going to show you exactly how it should be done. And he was doing it back in those days at Clash of the Champions. Dustin Rhodes was a young man, 1991. He'd only been in the business about 3 or 4 years at that point. 88, 89, 90, 91, 92. Yeah, 3 or 4 years at that point. Crazy. And so one of the first things I wanted to show you from my collection here on the Dustin Rhodes era is from this magazine, Inside Wrestling, from August of 91. You got the Steiners right there on the cover. Look at this big old fold out Dustin Rhodes. I'm not afraid to be on my own anymore. And this was about the time I think that they let Dusty go from the company, but he would come back pretty shortly and they would team together. And he cut that emotional promo with his son on television that a lot of people still talk about to this day. And here in this issue, this is the 1991 awards. Dustin had the pinup in this one, so he's already hanging on the walls of adolescence across the country. But this one has the spread on that Clash of Champions match I was talking about, where they brought out the surprise Ricky Steamboat. Arn Anderson was shocked. Look how shocked Arn Anderson is that Ricky Steamboat came back. One of my favorite matches, and this is a great issue. And Dustin doesn't get any of the awards, but he does have a little bit of merchandise in here, I believe. Yeah, the natural Dustin Rhodes in the catalog right there. And then they also talk about predicting him as being one of the future winners of the WCW awards. PN News, Rookie of the Year. He was also there at my first show in 92. 30 years ago is when those Gold Dust vignettes started airing. I think he debuted in September at In Your House 1995. Of course, on the playlist, I added the infamous, what is it? Let's see, it was in May of 95. The famous uncensored match in the back of the truck, the King of the Road match with the Blacktop Bully. He bladed. They got in trouble with TBS and they had to fire Dustin Rhodes. And then he moves over to the WWF. And this is the 95 PWI. That's when that all went down. March of 95, he gets fired. August of 95, 30 years ago, we started to see the debuting vignettes, and he premiered against Bob Hawley at the first In Your House. And so this is 95. This is the PWI 500, where Dustin Rhodes is ranked number 62 in 95. And this says Dustin Rhodes, former U.S. champion, was rising steadily in WCW before Uncensored. It says now in WWF as the very strange Goldust. Under tremendous pressure as son of a legendary wrestler, Dusty Rhodes, and it has apparently got to him. Well, that's 1995, and I had to go up and look. He was number 62. Well, by the time 1996 came around, Goldust was rated the number 11 wrestler in the world. Number 11, right up there. In 1996, number 11, right behind Ric Flair, Sabu, and Hulk Hogan. Goldust, it says, arguably the most controversial figure in wrestling history. That was in 1996. Hugely over in the world of professional wrestling. Hugely controversial as well. And the next magazine I wanted to show you, he's in the WWF. This is February of 96. And this is basically a preview for 96. This is the No Holds Barred predictions for 1996. And there are no less than 6 instances of Goldust in this magazine, including this stand-up figure, which I, of course, have a minty copy here as well. 6 mentions of Goldust in this issue alone, including the Scoop Sullivan comic in the back. Boy, 1996, what a time to be alive. And of course, he's featured prominently in the crystal turnbuckle where they give the predictions. And it's crazy because this is February of 96. He has the amazing backlot brawl with Roddy Piper at WrestleMania that year. And in the playlist, you'll see some of the promos leading up to that. And you'll also see his appearance on Conan O'Brien. And that's how mainstream wrestling was in 96. Conan O'Brien, you know they had to have Goldust. Once, if they were offered anybody, you know they said we can have some fun with Goldust, and it's a remarkable interview. You got to check it out. Who else could have hung with Conan O'Brien in that way? It's hilarious. Andy Richter is great, and they promote WrestleMania 12, which I have to say again holds a close place in my heart. I went to my friend Ricky Boggs' house with my friend Michael, and that was the first pay-per-view I ever watched live, WrestleMania 12. So I picked this VHS up a couple years ago, and I'm going to pop it in because I want to revisit the backlot brawl. And Goldust had an amazing match with Roddy Piper. And he talks in here a bit about the decision to put the lingerie on under his suit, which was the big shocking moment. He doesn't really say why or why he thought it would work or why that fit with his character. He just says, I thought it would be shocking, and Vince went for it. Of course he did. And it's a memorable moment for sure. And they really stole the show with that match. A lot of people were talking about the backlot brawl, and it had the O.J. Simpson references and everything. And they were trying to reference pop culture as always in the WWE. Fast forward a couple years though, this is the January of '98 issue. So around that same time, 2 years later than the last issue that I showed you. And you can tell things are on the downfall for Goldie because in '98 things start spiraling a little bit. He even impersonates his dad, Dusty Rhodes. And what did they call him? They get Dusty Dust, is what they called him. Yeah, in '98, stuff hasn't aged very well. It was cool at that time to kind of mock the legends, to mock Dusty Rhodes. And Lawler and JR were happy to play along as well. And it worked at the time. You know, that was cool to knock the legends. But it doesn't line up with the company's endless grandizing of Dusty Rhodes' legacy that's going on now. Here, they're fully mocking him, the entire thing, the polka dots, the bionic elbow, even cuts a promo that you better start letting me beat you up, you know, basically implying that Dusty never lost and that he was always looking to bury people. And I gotta wonder if we ever get the Dustin Rhodes Gold Dust Legends deal. Are they going to go so far into the figure line that we're going to get a Dusty Dust? But it shows you what this guy went through, and unfortunately, in the throes of addiction that he would not come out of for quite a long time. He went to WCW. Not a lot of great things to talk about in that era. It's just wild to think about the span of Dustin Rhodes' career. It's been amazing. It's no wonder he had to have both knees replaced. As I was watching all these videos, I couldn't help but have that context in the back of my mind that it's like every time I see him getting up, or every time I see him hitting the bulldog, or every time I see him hit that classic move where he drops to his knees, does the uppercut. Every time I see that, I go, wow, there's no wonder that he had to have both of those knees replaced. Pretty crazy to think about the sacrifice that your favorite wrestler does for us, for our enjoyment each and every week. No matter if they're a spot monkey or they're a grappler or they're a mat technician or they want to chain wrestle, they're all putting their bodies on the line. They're all going through pain, the pain of travel, the pain of maintaining their athleticism, and then the pain of going through the matches. And we owe them all a great debt. And that debt they're paying is through surgeries like Dustin. He had his first knee surgery in '96. He didn't have to have full reconstruction then, but here we are in 2025, 30 years post Gold Dust. Crazy to just think about the sacrifices over the years. The next time I saw Dustin Rhodes live, though, was in 2014, 12 years after I saw him wrestle in WCW in '92. This was 2014. I went to the Night of Champions in Nashville, and a great match. I talked about it on one of my earlier videos because it was 10 years ago last year. Cody Rhodes was wrestling as Stardust. They were teaming as Gold and Stardust, and they have an awesome match with the Usos. The finish is included in my Dustin Rhodes era playlist, which is going to be down in the description, and I'll add this video to that as well. You can go through the entire career of Goldust. Tons of great promos in there, and includes the celebration of Gold and Stardust winning those tag team champions. There's another great match where it's Cody and Dustin with Dusty in their corner. They're fighting for Dustin's career. It was part of the McMahon Helmsley era there. What did they call it? The Authority era. And that's an emotional match to watch too because Dusty is there at ringside. All three of the Rhodeses there, and they get the victory. It's really big, really emotional match and fun to watch as well. So I recommend definitely both those tag matches. I think they're both with the Usos. Um, or actually, one of them is with the Shield. One of them is against Roman and Seth, I think. But I think the I referenced that in the playlist as well. April 10th, 2024, 32 years after I saw Dustin Rhodes wrestle for the first time, I saw him again in the same building as part of AEW. He challenged Samoa Joe, who was the AEW champion at that time. It was an eliminator match, so it wasn't a title match. This was all around WrestleMania 40, and of course AEW kind of wanted to give a Rhodes a world title shot as well, or at least put him in that world title picture. And so that match is not incredible. I did add it to the playlist, but there's a new era of Dustin Rhodes here, and this is kind of the hardcore match that a lot of legends lean towards as they get older and they can do less in the ring. It becomes more about brawling around the arena and taking stairs and chair shots and that and the like. And so, but Dustin gets color again, buddy, on this one, and that's reminiscent of a match that I put on the playlist, and it's one you got to see. It's from the first Double or Nothing. It's the Texas Death Match between Cody Rhodes. He was only Cody at that time, and Dustin Rhodes. Crazy that Dustin got to keep the name, but Cody couldn't use it at that time. But they have a bloodbath at the first Double or Nothing. Lots of people call it one of the best matches of all time, and I watched it back. And I was going to watch it and then tape this video, and I'm glad I didn't because at the end of that match, it's really emotional. You can't be a true wrestling fan, watch that match, and not get emotional afterwards when Cody invites his brother to team up with him. I'm getting chills just thinking about it right now, and they have that embrace in the ring. It's everything that's great about professional wrestling in that match, in that moment, in that story, and in that family, man. Dustin Rhodes, what a legend. And of course, he had that match with Samoa Joe, went on to win his first singles title, the TNT Championship in AEW at All Out Texas or All In Texas, I believe. And of course, he didn't hold on to it for very long. Lost the TBS Championship on July 31st to Kyle Fletcher. And every time like I mentioned, every time I saw him executing some of these moves, landing on his knees, I just know that he had to be in so much pain. And I think if anybody can come back for another reinvention, it's got to be Dustin Rhodes because he's done it over and over. It's Dustin Rhodes. This is what he does. And so I wanted to give my best wishes to one of my favorites, Dustin Rhodes, Goldust, wishing him a speedy recovery. I hope he gets back in the ring for our sake. I hope he can do it healthy for his sake. And I think we got to induct Dustin into the Hall of Fame at some point. We got to get him on that Legends deal. We got to get him back to the E, and we got to get him into the Hall of Fame. And we got to get that Goldust Ultimate Edition Mattel figured. Am I right? Am I right? You got to see that, don't you? We got to see an Ultimate Natural, an Ultimate Goldust. Let's see it. Sign the deal with Mattel. One of the guys who's been an active part of my entire fandom as a professional wrestling fan from 1991 to right now in 2025. This has been the Goldust Eras video here on the channel. Thanks for watching. Leave me a comment if you enjoyed this. Who should I do an Eras video of next? I hope to see you next time. Thanks for coming back, and I hope to see you at the matches.